You look a little sunburnt there, bud.
I'm burnt and I got fucking my shoulders all fucked up from carrying shit.
You live at the beach and run a company on the beach, and you'd think that of all of us people, you would know how to not get burnt.
Well, it's not even the complete. It's my base tan, first of all, so that happens at the beginning
Okay.
of the summer when I start going out on the beach. But here's what I was doing yesterday, bud. I went to a super hillbilly mud truck show, and there's this mud track, and it's got little jumps on it, and there's a bunch of trucks there, and people race their trucks, and they jump into the mud with their trucks, and they fuck their cars up, and they blow their engines out, and it was a good time. It was real.
People white shit do.
Yeah, it was like
Shit white people do.
there was 1,500 trucks there. If you were running a car lot, you would be in heaven right now with what was going on there yesterday.
Only white people, though. Only
Yeah,
white people would
I
do
think
that.
I think there was 2 black people at the whole thing, and maybe like 1 Spanish person. All right, good evening. Welcome to Big Facts. Sixers come out with a win against the Wizards today, which I think most of us expected. It was a little closer than most of us expected. Embiid got into foul trouble early. Tobias Harris had a huge first half. We said last episode that we thought that this playoff run was going to be a Tobias Harris coming out party for the rest of the NBA to put them on notice. He scores 28 in the first half. I think he ends the game with 37. So he only scored 9 points in the second half. But Seth Curry and Danny Green picked him up in the second half. And 30 is a big number to put up when you're taking on the full scoring load. When Ben Simmons isn't scoring, your three-point shooters aren't really getting in rhythm to hit shots, and Embiid's in foul trouble. Tobias Harris is a bad matchup for everybody on the Wizards. Do you think they take a game in this series at all? And what did you think about the way the Sixers played tonight?
I don't think they take a game in this series. I think that there were a lot of good moments in this game. I think there were a handful of what the fuck moments in this game, which are pretty expected with such a. I know that there's a lot of playoff experience on this team, but a raw young team who's never had a real coach yet. I don't like how slow Seth Curry started. I don't like how slow Danny Green started. They're guys that are going to need to be better faster. But Tobias Harris, I mean, I think he carried a load that, that's what he's there for. He's a third option to be a guy when Joe gets in foul trouble and Ben gets shut down. I mean, I'll tell you what I really love seeing in this game. Probably 7 or 8 times in the second half. When Ben came across court in the fast break, they walled Ben off and they were backdoor cutters every single play.
Yeah.
And Ben getting aggressive early on in this game, having a couple of post-ups, having a couple of layups, made them have to play him honestly. And that opened up a ton of points. I mean, they weren't huge momentum swinging points. But dude, when you're up 85 to 81, 87's a lot further away. Like it was good to see. I think that there's a lot of everything I expected to see out of a Doc Rivers led playoff rotation I saw. I was kind of surprised though how deep the rotation went. I did not see him playing as many guys as he did. Like I didn't think Maxey would have gotten playing time. I mean, again, you had foul trouble early in a couple guys, but I didn't realize the bench was going to be as big as it was.
Yeah, I kept thinking to myself, and even if it's in spurts throughout games, first of all, this is the same thing that Dwight Howard did last year when he was with the Lakers. He would come in and he played 17 minutes a game this year. He averaged 17-8. That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, he's basically putting up Andre Drummond's numbers if he's playing full time. He's putting up like 15 and 16 boards. The number one priority has to be for them. I'll put that aside for another conversation to re-sign Dwight Howard in the offseason.
I agree.
Embiid, the refs, in my opinion, when I was watching the first half, there was a lot of bogus calls, and it almost felt like they wanted to have somewhat of a tight game one to draw some interest in the series. I didn't really like the calls. There was an offensive foul on Embiid where he didn't really throw an elbow. He just kind of threw his shoulder when he was turning and went up. And I've seen every center in the NBA do that and not get that call. But they were trying to kind of calm his physicality down early, ended up getting into foul trouble. It worked. I still think the Wizards can take a game from the Sixers. I don't know which game it's going to be. I don't think they have any momentum letting game one slip away. But just the fact that, Bradley Beal just didn't have a great game. Russell Westbrook Westbrook didn't score much and they were hanging in there for basically the whole game, it shows me that they can probably, if Beal has a 40-point game, which he does against us sometimes, they can probably take a game. But our guys pretty much all have to be off. We have to go on a scoring drought at some point in the game, which we're kind of known to do at different points. So I still think they can take a game, but I think it's a 5-game series.
Bro, you said Beal had a bad game. I'm just going to tell you this. Beal's stat line was 33, 10 boards, and 6 assists. And it was. I saw it was a bad game for Bradley Beal. But that is disgusting. It is crazy to have a 33, 10, and 6 game and be able to say that was a bad game.
And if you look at the stats, you would definitely think that, but he just didn't have a very good first half, and Tobias Harris had a great first half, and really that was the difference in the game. Beal did, I think, a lot. I have to check the numbers, but I think Beal did a lot of his scoring in the late,
most in the second half, most of the
late third and early fourth quarter, and then the game kind of got out of reach at the end for them. So
and again, man, there's a lot of good things. Listen, Ben had 6 points, which is about half of what I needed, but 15 boards and 15 assists. He played a really good game. Matisse Thybulle had a very clutch steal and a very clutch block against Bradley Beal. This team's for real, bro. And this is what the refs trying to tone down the physicality when you said that. There's no big in the league that's competing with Joel Embiid in this playoffs. He doesn't exist. The guy doesn't exist.
No.
So as long as Embiid can keep himself under control, not get in tech trouble and not get in further foul trouble, it's his. This is Joel Embiid's run. Like, he will be able to do whatever he wants, dude. I don't know what it is. I watch him play basketball, and it's like, holy shit! Yeah. How does that guy do that thing?
So he's moving so well right now, too.
Between his dribble, step back, one-legged fall away, his 17-foot fader, his footwork is unbelievable. The way he splits a double is better now. I mean,
dude, he was terrible at that last year.
Yeah, like if he got double teamed and didn't pass out, it was a turnover every single time. Now he's got that turnaround jumper, he's got a fadeaway, and he's got a split move, and he draws the foul often. I heard Tom McGinnis say it on the radio broadcast. The rip-through move he does. It's not a shot. He's not moving into shooting position. But because it looks like he is, and you were on my arm, I get a foul and I'm back at the line again. That's how Embiid scores 30.
You know who does that really well is Dwight Howard.
Oh, Dwight
Howard's really good at that. So I want to credit. So there was a conversation that was had that I heard on the radio between Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers before the season, because I want to give Dwight his credit too. I heard them talking, and basically Dwight sat Joel Embiid down, asked him what his goals were. Joel Embiid said he wants to be an MVP. And Doc looked at him and said, you ever seen an out-of-shape MVP? And so he gets into shape for training camp. He stays in shape during the season. And I want to give credit to Doc for getting him in position to do that. But Dwight Howard coming on this team, awareness of passing out of a double team isn't just something that you learn at some point when you are trying to learn the game of basketball. It's an awareness thing. Some people either have it or they don't. And to gain awareness in a year, I don't really credit that much to the coach. I credit that to Dwight Howard. And as I'll say again, I think Joel Embiid has made massive gains in his game with the addition of Dwight Howard being on the basketball team. So it has to be their number one priority. I'm glad he got in shape for Doc, but it looks like he's just learned so much from Dwight Howard, and I have to credit him for teaching him at the center position how to pass out of double teams, how to not turn the basketball over, because Dwight Howard was double teamed basically from his second year on. As soon as he touched the basketball, there was nobody on that Orlando team, and he dominated the league for a good 6-7 year stretch.
You're 100% right. I didn't miss anything you said. I paid attention. I just had a little error here. So I believe that Doc Rivers and Dwight Howard were as impactful as each other. I think Doc got the fire lit, but I think Dwight showed Joe how to do it.
Right.
I think Dwight was like, listen, man, I've been down this road. I fucked up a ton. Let me show you the right way to handle this shit. Let me show you the right way to be aggressive. And really, was just a mentor. And that's the reason why you bring Dwight Howard to this team, right? Like, J.J. Redick came to this team to help compete for sure. But he was 34 years old, 33 years old, however old he was when he got here. He was here to be a mentor to younger guys. That was what he was here for.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great to see. My only concern is, and I don't know if you mentioned this, if they don't bring Dwight Howard back, does Joel Embiid have the level of self-accountability he needs to maintain? That's my biggest question mark.
And I don't think it was going to be a lack of accountability with Doc coaching the team, but I do think, I don't think it's a coincidence that last year Anthony Davis played his best basketball and Dwight Howard was there, and now Dwight's gone and he's on the Sixers and Embiid's playing his best basketball. Not to mention, Anthony Davis came into the season this year out of shape. Embiid came into the season in shape. If there's one guy, I mean, Dwight Howard's fucked up a lot. But if there's one thing he's been in peak physical shape every single time he stepped on the floor. His workout regimen's got to be good. He probably eats clean, even though he has Frosties in his hand after someone misses a couple free throws every game. He has to be eating well. The guy is, 35, 36?
Yeah.
He's up there in his mid to late 30s, and he looks like he's 25. I mean, he's built like he's 25. He's more in shape than almost every big in the league. If you take a look at him and the way he plays, and he gives you a great 20 minutes every single game.
He does, and he's worth so much more even when he's not on the floor, and that's irreplaceable. I have to echo something that Joel Embiid alluded to and then said, and now I'm going to say directly, but I'm also going to give the exact specific moment it needs to happen. Sam Hinke needs to ring the bell for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I was so anti this idea last year and the year before because it felt cheap, and I didn't think I was anti just from the sound of it. And then I thought about it. None of the things that have come together to create this team, none of the assets acquired to get Tobias Harris, none of the assets that they put together to get anything would have been here or would have happened without Sam Hinke. And this is the culmination of the process, and I think it's just right that Sam Hinke gets to ding-dong the bell one time, just one time. And I think it should be Game 1 of the NBA Finals. That's when I think Sam Hinke should ring the bell. Or if it takes it Game 7, because that would be just that would be craziness.
They would love it. It would almost be like Deshaun Jackson coming back. You didn't get anything out of him, but it was still exciting when he was there for a second. So
yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of playoff basketball going on. Let's talk about some other series. We'll come back to the Sixers. By the way, Danny Green gave you 11 points in 31 minutes, but played good defense. Hit some couple good shots down the road. And Seth Curry had a moment in the late third, early fourth where he hit 2 or 3 shots in a row that ended up lifting them. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
And Toby, of his 37, last thing I want to mention, Toby went on a 16 run by himself. Tobias Harris scored 16 straight in the first half. There was a lot of great things from this game. Who else do we want to talk about?
So the Lakers played the Suns today. Booker scored 34 points. I believe this was in Phoenix. The Lakers they scored 90 points, and that's kind of been the problem with them all year. You held the Suns to 99. You're the number 1 rated defense in the NBA. I'm sure if you told the Lakers that they held the Suns to 99 points, they would have thought that they won this basketball game. It's pretty easy for those guys a lot of times to get over 100. It's very difficult for them to score when LeBron's not on the court. Anthony Davis had about a week at the end of the regular season where everybody was like, oh, Anthony Davis is back. It was the only week he really showed anything all year. And he comes back and he shot 30% tonight or something along those. It was
terrible.
I think, to be honest, I was watching him, and even Drummond was way more active than him. He didn't have a better stat line necessarily. He was way more active. When you miss guys like Dwight Howard and you miss guys like Rondo that aren't on the team anymore, and you're trying to put these other guys into place, and LeBron and AD aren't healthy, I can understand why everyone should be worried about the Los Angeles Lakers. I still think they're going to win this game in 6. I like them to go on a streak where they win 2 to 3 in a row. But this is going to be challenging for them, and they need to get it together this series, because if they're going 7 games against the Phoenix Suns, it's going to be the hardest series that they play. But it's not like another team can't knock them out. The West is not like it was last year where everybody knew the Lakers were going to win in that bubble especially.
No, I mean, it was, though, until LeBron got hurt. And that's where this is different, man. LeBron got hurt. This is different. I don't feel good about this team. I don't know that they beat the Suns. I mean, I I don't know that they beat the Suns. And that kills me to say because LeBron James holds a record that Michael Jordan, I think, lost in his first year that he ever got to the playoffs, in that he's never lost a first-round series in his career ever. And I think this could be the one. And it's fitting for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of storylines. Chris Paul is going on to hopefully win his first past his boy LeBron, you know. I don't know that they're good enough, man. I think that they can push it to 6 games. They're not going to get swept, but I don't know that they win this series.
See, for me, when I look at this game, I look at the fact that they lost by 9. Here's the thing. They lost by 9, but it never was particularly close. The Lakers pulled within 4 or 5 a couple times, but I don't think at any point that I was watching the game, and I watched a good portion of it, that they ever took the lead. But here's kind of what you got to break down. Devin Booker scores 34 points. LeBron scores 18 points, only takes 13 shots. From three-point land, Los Angeles shot 26%, and they got out-rebounded by 14 for the game with Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond on the floor and LeBron James. That cannot happen. The only person grabbing rebounds for the Suns are, basically Bridges, Saric, and Ayton. So you can't get out rebounded like that when you have Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond, and that's just about being active. So if I see that for 2 or 3 games, I know Anthony Davis is hurt then. And the last time LeBron James was hurt, they missed the playoffs because he lost some games, tried to come back a little too early from a groin injury, and just couldn't get it together with that young roster. And I think if he was healthy, they would have gotten a 5, 6, 7 seed. I think they were in the 4th seed when he went out with the groin injury. So he's trying to come back and get his boys ready for the playoffs. Only scores 18 points. So you have to be a little worried. But he's just, we've seen LeBron James lose a lot of game ones. Teams have snuck game ones away from Cleveland, even when they were the favorite, the favorites in the East. Teams took game 1 from them, I think, last year twice, I want to say. And they just came back and they ended up routing everybody. The media, I can't do it, I can't do it. The media started saying, "Oh, Portland's going to beat them and Denver's going to beat them." And some of these teams took game 1 and it's over for the Lakers. Until there's a team that wins 4 games against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, I'm not going to say that they're going to get beat. I don't care if he's injured or not.
I get that. Let's piggyback onto the Portland Trailblazers. I really genuinely believe the Portland Trailblazers will beat the Denver Nuggets in 5 games, and I'm not sad that I said it. I think that Denver has so many great things. I really do like Nikola Jokic. He's a very, very good player. I hate him as the MVP because he's not exciting. He's not dominant. He does everything right. You know what it's like, man? It's like Mike Trout, right? Mike Trout's the best. He's the best, but he's the best. He's the best. So it's not exciting. There's no frill. There's no excitement. I'm just bored. I hate that he's the MVP.
Yeah.
If Joe played 15 more games, Joe would be the MVP, and that's what I wanted anyway. But Denver's got Michael Porter Jr., you and I have talked about for the last fucking year and a half that we've been doing this. He's a great player. We knew he would be. I think most of us that watched college basketball at that time wanted the Sixers to draft him. A kid I work with, Boston Celtics fan, wanted the Celtics to draft him that year. They have Jamal Murray, once he comes back healthy, they're a good team. They are a very good team. Damian Lillard is going to drag that team to an NBA Finals at some point soon. He knows that his window is 3 or 4 years maximum because he's got to catch fire while LeBron fades out. He's got to be able to beat LeBron once and move forward. Portland's a fucking great team, bro, and I love watching Carmelo Anthony play basketball. I think that CJ McCollum has a whole new role, and Dame is just being a murderer, bro. He's just murking motherfuckers. That's who he is, and I want to see it happen. I want to see an easy team come the NBA Finals for my own selfish purposes, but I want to see a team like that, bro. That's why I like the idea of Chris Paul. I'd love to see Chris Paul get to an NBA Finals, but then I want to see him get his teeth kicked in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And so let's this Blazers game real quick, just to let everybody know what happened. So the Nuggets are not going to win this series basically because they don't have Jamal Murray. So you got a backcourt with the Trailblazers that has Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum. And you need to balance that out with another guard that can score. And the reality of it is Nikola Jokic is a great all-around player, and he was top of the league in scoring. But a pure scorer, when you talk about guys like Carmelo Anthony, even though they're not going to lead the NBA in points per game, they are the best scorers on their team. And I know,
and they got the dude from fucking Toronto at the trade deadline, Norman Powell.
Yeah, so
dude, they are a good basketball team.
They are. And so you have the Nuggets on the other side, where Nikola Jokic puts up 34, Aaron Gordon puts up 16, which is pretty good for him, and Michael Porter Jr. puts up 25. You get 10 from Monte Morris, but who else is going to be there to score for you? It has to be Jamal Murray. It's not going to be Austin Rivers. It's not going to be Monte Morris. It's not going to be Campazzo. So they're just going to get outscored this series. The Blazers could not play defense and probably outscore the Nuggets in this series, and that's going to be the difference. And unfortunately, I really wanted to see Jamal Murray follow up last year. I had a great time watching him in the bubble, putting up 40 and 50-point games consistently throughout a couple series, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a superstar. Unfortunately, he gets injured this year, and the Blazers are going to take this series. And Dame, with a 34-point, 13-assist game in 40 minutes, just did everything. You had 6 guys for the Blazers in double figures, and the Nuggets just don't have the scoring to do that.
Bro, Damian Lillard's my favorite guard in basketball right now. Favorite. He has been for the last couple of years. He is so good. I still don't think that I don't think they're a matchup problem for the top teams. I think if it were like the Brooklyn Nets that they met in the NBA Finals, Portland could compete. But they're no matchup for the Sixers. If the Heat catch fire again, they're too big. If the Lakers are right, I don't think they get past the Lakers. The Clippers maybe even. But, speaking of the Clippers, Paul George is a bad player, right? Like, we have to say this out loud now. Paul George is not a good basketball player.
But he's not. He's not going to be the guy that's going to lead you to the finals. He's not a bad basketball player.
But he can't play in the playoffs at all. He's bad in the playoffs. He's worse than bad in the playoffs.
I mean, he didn't put up a bad stat line, I don't think, the other night. But
why don't you go look it up and then you tell me if it's good or bad? I didn't write it the fuck down. I just know that the playoff P.
Well, I was
back.
watching the end of the game, and he was making a couple shots, but I don't know what he did for the game. So he let's see, Paul George 23 points, 6 rebounds in 40 minutes. That's not going to do it. Kawhi had 26 and 10.
What was Paul George's? What was how many field goals, attempts, and makes?
I didn't get there. I don't think he had a bad. I don't think he had a bad percentage. But it's funny. You look up his name and it has playoff P next to it. That's funny. I don't know what his field goal percentage was last game. I would assume it's probably around his norm. But your best player, like your best offensive player in the playoffs, when you're down or you're struggling, they don't have closers, first of all. That's the biggest thing. There was moments in the fourth quarter of that game where the Clippers had an opportunity to close the gap and or take the lead, and they just didn't have the guy.
Hey, bro. What do you think Paul George shot?
23 points. He probably shot 43%.
8 for 18, 44%.
Okay.
That's atrocious.
I mean, I figured if he only had 26 and he probably took more shots, it was right around
23, 2 for 8 from 3.
Yeah.
Atrocious. He's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not terrible, but he's not going to – him and Kawhi.
Bro, Kawhi was 9 for 22.
Yeah. Well, then should they feel good about the loss?
I think the Mavericks should feel good about the win. I mean, they outplayed them, but that's just those two guys are. I mean, whichever fucking Morris brother, I don't know if it's Markieff or Marcus, had 4 points.
Yeah, it's Marcus.
Fucking Nick Batum and Rajon Rondo give you 11 points off the bench, and they scored the third most on the team. That's not good, man. Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah, I still think they're going to end up winning the series. But Porzingis is back for the Mavs, and people have to remember Porzingis, I don't think, was there in the playoffs last year.
No, and Kristaps had 14.
Yeah, so and
very inefficiently, he was 4 for 13, but he made big buckets.
Yeah, and just so people know, last year the Mavericks were the most efficient offense in NBA history, and they lost Seth Curry, and their offense actually tanked a little bit this year from losing Seth. They replaced him with Johnson from Miami, who's a great defensive player but doesn't give you anything offensively. And it looks like the guy from Miami just like literally just plays defense.
Well, here's Dwight Powell.
No.
I think he's a 4. So this is your lineup that played. Dorian Finney-Smith, Kristaps, Maxi Kleber, Luka, Tim Hardaway Jr., Willie Cauley-Stein, Nico Melli, Josh Richardson, Powell, and Jalen Brunson. That's their lineup.
I thought they had a guy that came over. Maybe he got traded, but there was a guy on Miami that came over at the beginning of the year. Maybe they traded him again.
Bro, Jalen Brunson gave you 15.
Jalen Brunson's a very good player.
Jalen Brunson is a good fucking player, bro.
He's a great NBA bench player, and he's going to be for a decade. I mean, he's not going to start on any teams, but he's going to be a great.
He could be Lou Williams though.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I think like he looks like when he plays like Isaiah Thomas, and Isaiah Thomas, obviously way exceeded expectations when he was in Boston, got injured. I don't think that's going to be Brunson, but Brunson's not as he's not going to be as impactful offensively anywhere as a guy like Isaiah Thomas was.
Bro, you just brought up Isaiah Thomas's name, and I just now again am going through the arc of Brad Stevens.
Speaking of the Celtics,
Isaiah Thomas is, what was he that year? 2nd or 3rd in MVP voting. He averaged 34 a game or some shit.
Yeah, he was ridiculous.
You trade him for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving does nothing for you.
It doesn't
and then
play.
you decide to replace him with Kemba Walker, and now you are a dumpster fire. They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah, they are.
They are Jason Tatum and nothing else is what they are right now.
Yeah,
there's nothing else there.
Especially given the injury to
Jaylen Brown.
When your second best player goes down, you're going to look bad, but they didn't look good with them. So it's not like it wouldn't have changed much in the Brooklyn series, because at the end of the day, you're a guard heavy team and you're playing a team with 2 better guards than what you have. James Harden's better than Tatum, and I would take Kyrie over Brown, even though Brown gives you more on the defensive end. And then we're not even talking about Kevin Durant, who I think had 30 plus the other night. They didn't look great. Offensively, didn't look like they meshed well really till the 4th quarter, but they still are going to pull away from that Celtics team, and they have a full series now to play together before they get to the next series, and we'll see what we can do in that series. The New York Knicks are playing the Atlanta Hawks right now, and I was watching the first half of that game. Just what an advantage the Knicks have at Madison Square Garden compared to what Atlanta has in Atlanta. Madison Square Garden has been I mean, there was a series of just like 4 good stretch of plays by the Knicks, and that like Spike Lee's like running up and down the court in Madison Square Garden, and the Hawks are just shook. And I think the Hawks were winning last time that I looked, but just given how intense the crowd was, I'm listening to the game, and I just can't imagine with the lack of playoff experience that the Hawks are going to end up beating the New York Knicks in a 7-game. And now the Knicks are up 7 points. It's just a matter of time before they might win this series in 5 games, and they're not that much better, but the home court advantage for the Knicks is that strong that I don't think they have a chance against the Hawks. I really don't.
I like the Knicks as a team too much. I think they played too well. And listen, don't get me wrong, Atlanta's a team on the rise. They're a very good young team. They're just not quite there yet. I want to jump back to the Sixers real quick. I was just looking through a list of impending free agents for next season. There's obviously a couple of big names because of some player options. Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan's a free agent. So I have a question for you.
Say a list again. I'm sorry.
I just Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Mike Conley, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Victor Oladipo, Dennis Schroeder. There's a couple of highlight guys. By the way, Danny Green's name came up and made me very happy because he makes too much money. I love him, but he makes too much money. So let me ask you this question: I'm gonna give you I'm going to give you 3 names, and I want you to tell me who you would prefer out of these 3 names. If you had a slot, it was going to cost you the same money across the board, you could pull it off. Which one of these guys would you want to plug into this current team? Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan, or Victor Oladipo?
Well, can we take Kawhi out?
No. I want to know if that's somebody you'd want.
Yeah, of course, because if Kawhi is able to come in and be the second best player and possibly the second or third best defender, and all he really has to do is his job, and he doesn't really have to close games, and you have 3 of the top 5 defenders in the NBA, I'd take Kawhi.
I think for the same reason Brooklyn is failing in front of our eyes, you absolutely don't touch Kawhi Leonard or somebody of that stature. That's why he was the one that was by himself.
I think in my opinion, Kawhi had that stature after winning an NBA championship, and people aren't even talking about him as a top 5 player in the NBA. So that's gone. I mean, that
that's after the whole reason why I don't want him.
Well, after last year was gone, so it's not like he's coming in with expectation. Like if you get to the finals this year, he is going to be a guy that gets you over the hump. If you win a finals this year, adding Kawhi Leonard is just guaranteeing that you get back to one. So I like DeMar DeRozan's fit, but I think you have a guy good enough offensively as DeMar DeRozan. I think Tobias Harris is just as good.
But you need a guard.
Do you?
A guard. Danny Green is leaving.
He's a guard forward, yeah.
I know he plays a lot of the 3, which is why I like the name DeMar DeRozan, because DeMar DeRozan can play the 2 and the 3.
Kawhi Leonard's a pure small forward, though.
Right, but he's not as good as we thought he was, and I'm not interested. I'm not interested in an underachiever. No, thank you.
I mean, you can't afford him anyway, so we should take him.
Right. Well, it's again, he was the odd man out. DeMar DeRozan and Victor Oladipo are in striking distance.
Yeah, I think
they're 2 very different guys, right? I don't know. Oladipo's never shown me that he can score in a catch and shoot mode consistently. He's a scorer for sure, but he's an ISO guy. That is Toby. Not that DeMar DeRozan has shown me that much. I mean, Toronto DeMar DeRozan was an ISO scorer. As he's aged, he's gotten better from the outside. I've watched him play. I've watched him play with Patty Mills specifically. He can make wing 3s. He's not great at it, but like Rudy Gay wasn't great at it, and then he became a stretch 4. I think DeMar DeRozan's a guy who gives you a lot of shit, and I don't think you got to pay much for him, bro. I think on a team like this, DeMar DeRozan who wants to chase a title, DeMar DeRozan who wants to chase a title in the last couple of years, he's got to make a difference. I think you get a guy like DeMar DeRozan for like $5 to $7 million on a mid-level exception, and that's I think that's the play you got to make if you're the Sixers.
One thing that drives me nuts is, and I'm not going to keep harping on the past, but we drafted someone and then traded him that would have been the perfect fit for what the Sixers are doing and what they're lacking right now.
But we didn't know what we knew at the time.
We all knew that we were all super pumped when they drafted him and then super bummed when we traded him away.
There was a lot of storyline that went with that, and that was part of the disappointment. Sure. And again, Michael Bridges was more NBA ready now, but nobody disagreed that Zaire Smith had a higher ceiling. And he wound up just having injury problems. Nobody could have foreseen that.
I'm still tired of higher ceilings talk, though. I don't like.
We have a legitimate general manager now with a legitimate head coach. Where look again, Ty Maxey was the right pick. There was plenty of guys they could have taken. Do you remember that night when we was talking?
Well,
the 4 stories I read right before where Isaiah Joe was their target, and they got that motherfucker at the back of the second round.
Well, there's a guy that's playing really well right now that's extremely consistent, that hits the 3 really well and plays defense really well, that we were both very high on. He went to Memphis, which is a great fit for him. But Desmond Bane is a very good rookie, and he's going to be a very good player, and he is a man on the court. I think we missed out on that, and we both really liked him. But overall, obviously, Maxey was the right pick. I like Isaiah Joe's ceiling as well. I think he could be a good player.
I think Isaiah Joe turns into JJ Redick if he reaches his peak, which is a meaningful player. A Seth Curry type, that's a meaningful player. But I really believe that next season, maybe not next year, the year after, 2 seasons from now, because I think that's what Seth has left on his contract. I think he has 2 years. Once there's a spot for him, I think that's a guy that can play alongside Ben and be a primary scoring two guard. I think he's shown the ability to do it. Obviously, there's a ton of growth that needs to happen for you to give him 30 to 35 minutes a game. But the two opportunities he's been given, serious opportunities, he's fucking put on, bro. He's got NBA talent.
So if I'm thinking about next year and possibly the year after, and again, everything the Sixers do is going to harp on how they finish the year. If they
With a fucking parade, that's how we're
they,
finishing the
if
year.
they don't make the finals and or get it, if they get to the finals, obviously they feel like they're a guy away that's going to get them over the hump to win it. LeBron James is a year older next year. We'll see how Luka does in the playoffs this year. That might be the next up and coming guy. We'll see how the Bucks, the Jazz, the Nets, teams like that do. If the Nets are healthy all year, it's going to be, again, hard to compete with if they actually have some time together. So you are going to have to add someone next year regardless, because my belief is if Brooklyn gets knocked out of the playoffs this year before the finals, it's really due to the fact that they were injured and didn't have any cohesiveness, going into the playoffs.
Sure.
If they have a full year and they can actually stay healthy at the age that Kevin Durant's at with his injury history, it's a big if, but you will have a year at some point where if they play and they're healthy, they're going to win a finals together, and that's just going to be what it is. They have a 3-year window, and then they're too old. They're just going to be too old.
Can I pitch you a next year scenario about Brooklyn real fast?
You think someone's going to leave if they don't win?
Well, it struck me today. And it was today when I was getting coffee this morning on my way back. Okay, we're going to make up a world. There's going to be two outcomes, right? They lose to the Bucks or they lose to the Sixers, because I think one of the two are inevitable.
Okay.
If they lose to the Bucks in the second round, I am convinced that something like this will happen. If they lose to the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm less convinced it'll happen this year, but it may be something that happens mid-season if it goes poorly. So, do you remember the other city on the East Coast that Kevin Durant was tied to a lot? Do you remember who it was?
The Wizards.
The Washington Wizards. I believe that it is more than possible that Kevin Durant gets bounced from these playoffs, whether he's on the bench because he's hurt again or whether he gives his mighty allest and everything he's got and the lack of defense just loses it for him. They spend too much money to complete that team. They're not going to be in a window if they all stay. And I think Kevin Durant's a guy that will take a hit and say, if you can get me home, if you can send me to D.C., where he wanted to go, where his other option was, and D.C. put together a package of, let's say, Rui Hachimura, Denny Avita, and 3 first-round draft picks, Brooklyn will get a haul, but it'll be worth it to the Wizards if they can keep Bradley Beal, get Kevin Durant, and have Russell Westbrook. They're going to be pretty fucking good, and it puts asses in seats. I see that story making sense for everybody involved. Kyrie can't go through another trade dilemma, and James Harden sure as shit can't do it 6 months after he did it the first time.
I think it's more like, and I disagree with this because I don't think Kevin Durant wants to go back and play with Russell Westbrook anywhere. I also think that James Harden takes an extreme amount of pressure off Kevin Durant to not have to be the best player on a number 1 or number 2 team.
You don't think Bradley Beal does that in Washington?
He does. I just don't think there's – you would have to include Russ in that package, and I'm not sure that D'Antoni and Nash want to coach an offense with Russell Westbrook on it because that's just not the type of offense they run. It just doesn't make any sense, and I don't think KD wants to go back and play with Russ while he's there. I think a more likely scenario, though, and I don't think you'll disagree or be surprised by this, is that if they lose really early on, I think Kyrie Irving is going to take a lot of heat because he's going to go to the podium and talk about how much he doesn't care about basketball. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie Irving decides that after the season and getting bounced early when the expectations were so high and having to deal with the media every day, I would not be surprised if Kyrie Irving retires. And now this goes and they owe him some money. And now it goes back to Kevin Durant and James Harden just being on the team by himself.
Retires.
Kyrie Irving does not want to play basketball. He doesn't want to play basketball. I would not be surprised if there's been rumors and his friend group. This was a story earlier in the year, Just. I don't know if you saw it or missed it. His friend group was talking about he doesn't want to play basketball past like 32. Like he's going to be one of those guys that retires early. So I wouldn't be surprised if after a year with high expectations where he went to the podium just last week, they were asking him basketball questions. He's like, sorry, guys, I know you want to hear basketball questions, but there's just all this shit going on in the world, and I just can't talk about basketball right now because I don't really care about it. I'm a good basketball player. I just wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't want to deal with this shit anymore and he just retires. I really wouldn't.
I couldn't disagree with you more. There's no way.
There's too many teams. All the proof is there. He's been talking about.
There's too many teams that would welcome him in if the New York spotlight is too bright on him and wouldn't give a fuck.
It's not about the New York spotlight.
If he needed to miss 20 games a year to go fucking hole up in his apartment or whatever he does. Plenty of teams sign up for that. Yeah, but this just happened in Boston a couple years ago, and I'm reading the story. It's right in front of me now. He said he hopefully wants to retire from the NBA in his early to mid 30s. We're not there yet. He's like 28, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think he's 29 or 30, but he's getting there. So he's 29. So he's gonna be 30 when he ends it next year.
No way he
might
retires
play one
next
more
season.
year, but maybe not. But the year after.
Now, if you're telling me the year after, let's say that they get their teeth kicked in this year, and then next year they suffer the same fate. Okay, then I would see it because again,
he doesn't seem to care about his teammates this year that much.
He does. He's a guy, dude. You know, listen, I hate it. I hate what I'm about to say. Forgive me for what I'm about to say. He's Allen, bro. He's AI. That's who he is. He's a great basketball player. He's great at basketball, and he knows how great he is. And he doesn't give a fuck about what anybody has to say about anything about the sport. He believes he knows everything that he needs to know, and he's Kyrie Irving. And fuck you, just like Allen Iverson felt. He's AI, bro. That's what he is. And it's puzzling, it's confusing, but I also think it's a little bit fucked up that we're so critical on him. But we all used to cheer AI on, saying, "Fuck yeah, screw the media. AI's the man." Kyrie's just Allen Iverson, bro. Just 20 years later. That's it.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to be in a bitter age of social media. I guess we didn't really have that when.
Yeah, we couldn't talk as much shit, dude. We had fucking ESPN while we watched him say practice 100 times for a week, and then everybody forgot it happened because it wasn't on ESPN again.
Yeah. No, we remembered. We still remember.
Yeah, dude, it was one of the greatest moments in the history of Philadelphia.
Yeah, you get good sound bites from guys like that. So everybody knows.
So I'm supposed to be the number one franchise player, and we talking about practice. How am I supposed to be winning a scoring title, and we talking about practice? Practice? Oh, it was just, it was great, dude. It was great.
It was
a classic fucking moment.
So let's get back to the Sixers. You made a point last show, and it came to fruition, and if the Knicks take care of business the way I think the Knicks are going to take care of business, and Brooklyn, beats the Celtics and then ends up beating the Bucks, the 76ers are, as you stated, not going to get on an airplane until the finals.
Until Game 3 of the NBA Finals. So let's be real, the Jazz aren't going to make it that far. So it'll be Game 3.
So let's make up a world where we think the most likely. I think the Suns, if it's not the Lakers, I think the Suns are most likely to make it out of the West. You agree?
100%.
Okay. So in a world where the Suns come out of the West, they've been going from Phoenix to LA, and then their next matchup would be I can't think off the top of my head. The winner of the
Who are we talking about?
The Suns. The winner of the 3-6 matchup. Who's the winner of the 3-6 matchup?
Portland.
Okay. So let's say they're going to take care of Portland. So they're going from LA to Phoenix.
I don't know about that one, man. Portland is the X factor.
Okay,
Portland
but
who knows.
Let's still pretend. Whether it's Portland or not, let's just say the Suns are going from Phoenix to Portland, Phoenix to LA, Phoenix to Portland, Phoenix to LA. The Sixers are going to Brooklyn, DC, New York City, and then Brooklyn. They don't even have to drop. It's like 35 minutes. It's not even.
Real shit. Here's the best part. Real shit. If you want to take a train, it's 50 minutes to get place to place. But these motherfuckers can have fucking dinner at their house and drive to the game after and still be there before shoot-around starts. It is an unfair advantage, and it's a good one.
And I think, to be honest with you, I think Portland's a tougher matchup for the Sixers than the Suns are because Embiid completely wipes out Ayton. Chris Paul has a tougher matchup with the likes of Ben Simmons and or Matisse Thybulle and or maybe Seth Curry's not great, but you might have Danny Green on him. And then Booker's getting played by, first of all, Tobias Harris has played really good defense.
Really fucking good defense. Really good
defense in the last couple weeks. Or Ben Simmons might be on him, just covering him and letting Matisse or Curry cover Chris Paul because he just doesn't shoot that much, so maybe you just let one of them cover them. And Ayton's wiped out, and then you have Bridges with a matchup with Harris, whatever the case might be. It's a really tough matchup for Chris Paul with the size that the Sixers have. It's a really tough matchup for Devin Booker if he's not hitting his three-point shot and he has to go inside. And we've seen Ayton play Joel Embiid, and it's not pretty. We've seen Gobert play Joel Embiid, and it's not pretty. So Ayton really struggles with them. So if you are able to not have to step on an airplane, and then you're traveling back and forth to Phoenix, but you take a 2-0 lead because Phoenix has been traveling. They've been playing tough series against the Lakers and then tough series against Portland going 6, 7, maybe 7 games. And then they have to come to Philadelphia with 75% capacity and play a team that's just way bigger and stronger than they are. That's a big, big success, and you have to feel good about that if that ends up happening if you're the Sixers.
Bro, that's the whole point of having the best advantages is because we know Utah is a false giant. It doesn't matter who comes out of the West. They have to come to Philly. They have to come here. If you take care of the business in front of you, which you should, if you don't look past what's right here and you take care of what needs to be taken care of right now, you have the advantage because it doesn't matter what team. The West is so close together. The level of talent of those teams is so bunched together. That's why Western Conference, the first 2 rounds of the Western Conference playoffs are always way better than the first 2 rounds of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Most people don't watch the Eastern Conference playoffs until the finals. Nobody watches the first 2 rounds because 1s destroy 8s and 2s destroy 7s, and it goes as it should. Not in the fucking West, man. In the West, they're hard-fought series. And if it is the Lakers, if the Lakers get their shit together and this was just a LeBron-flubbed game 1, and it's the Lakers that make it, they're going to have a 6 or 7 game series, all 3 rounds before they get on an airplane to come here after we've probably been sitting for a week. It's not going to be good for whoever comes, dude. And that is such a gigantic, the stars are aligned. The astrology, I don't know if it's right. My wife would be able to tell you that. She knows all that shit. If the astrology's right, it seems as though it is. Just fucking, it's right in front of you. Reach out and grab it. I say this to my sales guys that I fucking, these island of misfit toys that work for me, Aaron Barrison. You know, you've worked amongst them. This island of misfit toys I have, the opportunity's right here. Just reach out and take it. Just grab it. It's here. Execute. You know what to do. Just do it right. And I was impressed today. I was impressed that there wasn't more rust is the biggest thing. I was really worried about game 1 because I knew Washington just had a huge momentum boost to win an in game. And now game 1 was going to be the hard one. And the first half wasn't great, but they took care of business, bro. And that's what they need to do right now. They just need to execute. That's it.
Yeah, so speaking of another game, you've been really low on the Bucks, and I'm not going to brag about the fact that they took a game from the Heat because they're supposed to win that series. But I will say that, did you watch the game or see the highlights?
I did.
Chris Middleton's hit the game-winning shot in the clutch. And the thing is, man, here's what I take from this. If it was just Chris Middleton and Giannis, because they put up 26 and 27, Giannis had 18 rebounds. Giannis played 45 minutes. Chris Middleton played 45 minutes. Drew Holiday came in there, and it's crazy to see because of how the rest of the team did. Because aside from Brook Lopez, you got nothing. So Drew Holiday comes in and gives you 20 points and 11 rebounds in 42 minutes. I think he hits a big shot in the fourth at some point, and then Chris Middleton wins the game in overtime. You didn't have another guy in double figures besides those 4 guys. And not only did you not have another guy in double figures, your bench players gave you 3 points, 5 points, and 2 points. And didn't play a lot of minutes. Dante DiVincenzo, who I really like, had 3 points in 37 minutes. So you relied basically on Brook Lopez, who gave you a hell of a game, but Drew Holiday comes up with 20 points. You just didn't have that last year. And against a team like the Heat, for when they get hot, they had 5 guys in double figures and then 1 guy with 9 and 1 point guy with 8. Bam only gave you 9 and 12, which in 41 minutes, Bam should be giving you 15 to 20 easily. But there's a lot of guys on that team that can score, and you ended up winning the game, playing good enough defense to win the game, and just having that third guy that you can rely on to not just score but play good defense.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy game, dude. The kid Trevor that works with me hits me up and says, "Playoff Jimmy Butler's back," and I was like, oh, "Guys, I know. Don't get excited. He had a great shot. Jimmy Butler is a very good basketball player.
Yes.
He's just not a superstar, and that's what that team in Miami lacks right now is a superstar." I don't see the Bucks are absolutely supposed to win that series.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, you want the Bucks to win that series because the Heat.
Yeah,
the Heat are either going to be a really difficult matchup for the Sixers in round 2, or if the 7 beats the 2, maybe you don't want to see the Heat at all. You want to see Brooklyn or Milwaukee. And you really kind of want those 2 guys to meet, bro, because if you got to see the 2 or the 3 seed, let them see each other. Let them fucking tear each other apart for 7 games and come in exhausted and brutalized while you're fresh and ready to go.
And not to mention, man, you'd prefer, in my opinion, I'd like Miami to have to play Brooklyn if we're going to play Brooklyn, but if we're going to play Milwaukee, I'd rather just play Milwaukee. But Miami is a team that they kind of beat you up, and they're very physical. And so if you have to go a 6-7 game series with Miami to start the playoffs and or face them in the second round, and the team that you are facing next just played Miami, that's very favorable for you if that team can possibly take out Miami, but they have to take out Miami. They're probably, aside from the Lakers, they're one of the most physical teams, and I'm just throwing the Sixers. We all know are extremely physical, so I'm not talking about them. Right. I love the fact that they've played bully ball this year, but aside from the Sixers, the Lakers and Miami, they just beat you up a little bit. They're just really hard to deal with.
They're a grinding team. They're again, it's like the Blazers. They're pesty. Yeah, they're very. And they play. They don't have a highlight level guy, right? Like Jimmy Butler's not fucking Damian Lillard or Steph Curry or even LeBron James that could go on 25-point streaks. That's just not who Jimmy is. Tyler Hero maybe will become, but isn't yet. He's too young. Duncan Robinson's a fucking bench player. And Bam Adebayo scores 9 points in 40 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they are a superstar away. I'll tell you what, if Kevin Durant wanted to force his way out of anywhere, and even Kyrie Irving, Miami would be fucking unbelievable with a superstar down there. Like, I mean, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh before we all knew he was bad at basketball. That is how good that team down there could be. Chris Bosh was not that good at basketball, buddy. When the game moved, he didn't.
He made one of the biggest rebounds. He did one of the biggest rebounds in Heat history.
Fucking Dennis Rodman had like 35 of the most unbelievable
He was a great player. I know. Dennis Rodman was a great player.
Dennis Rodman's a borderline Hall of Famer at best. He shouldn't be there, really, but you understand why he is because he won titles. He won titles.
Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer, so we're going to take him out too.
Well, Ben Wallace is a good thing to bring up for these last couple minutes. I was about to wrap up, and that's a great point. I don't think that I have a problem. Justin doesn't have a problem with Ben Wallace because, first of all, Ben Wallace, for those that don't know, is fucking Philly born and bred, and we love our players. We love our guys. I know Tyreek Evans has burnt his way out of the league because he smokes too much marijuana, but he is Chester's own. He repped his hood. We appreciate our people. Ben Wallace was the best defender I knew when I was a kid. When I was a kid, defense was Ben Wallace.
Him and Ron Artest
but Ron Artest was a wing defender in an era when the wing wasn't as prevalent. So you knew Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace's name was in how many rap songs, dog? You a rapper. You know the answer to that question. Thousands. Ben Wallace was the fucking dude. And I feel that way about him, but this is why I think as generations get older, the old guy always says, "Oh, they're weakening the Hall of Fame," because the only reason I can give you that Ben Wallace deserves to be in the Hall of Fame is because I thought he was the best defender in the NBA for a couple of years, and that shouldn't be enough justification.
If he doesn't win championships with that team and be an anchor defensively on one of the best defenses we've ever seen, a defense that was holding teams to 79 points in the playoffs, then he doesn't make the playoffs. If they don't win rings, he doesn't make the playoffs, or make the Hall of Fame. But given that they did, and given that Rodman won a bunch of championships as well, that's why they get the pass to get in. You can't give it to everybody.
Well, and like I would say, I would personally, again, this might be personal, just because he was my era's guy. I would say Ben Wallace was better than Dennis Rodman. I would say if I were asked which guy earned it more, I would say Ben Wallace over Dennis Rodman.
Well, because all Dennis Rodman had to do was rely on Michael, Scotty, and some 3-point shooters offensively.
Right, just rebound. Just jump higher than everybody else. That's all you had to do. And Ben Wallace was, again, dude, he was just he was a gritty, strong player. I love Ben Wallace, but this is true, dude. We're softening the rules for the Hall of Fame because we're coming down of a stretch of not so great sports. It's not just basketball. It's football too. It's Major League Baseball too. There we are to a point now where this last era of awfulness, the last 20 years, this I guess started 30 years ago and started ending 5 years ago. The players just aren't as good, dude. Like the greatness is fewer and far between, you know? And like we have to understand that the steroid era with baseball, tons of guys aren't in that should be. I know that they did the roids and they did the juice. Everybody did the fucking juice.
To not even when we talk about the steroid guys in baseball, like you can make an argument that Jose Canseco, obviously shouldn't be in the Hall. Like obviously you can make like that argument, obviously, but you're not going to sit here and tell me that Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez and Mark.
Listen, bro, we gotta. But Barry Bonds, I just had this conversation with somebody a couple days ago. I have a couple of baseball people at work. Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player of all time right now.
The best hitter ever.
Right, he's the best player ever.
Other things too.
He's the best player ever right now. And I know that the only reason that people don't say that out loud more often is because the asterisk of steroids. And I think that the ball itching thing about that, to me, it's the same concept of what makes my balls itch about them not letting Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame because he bet on games. Who fucking cares? It was 50 years ago. Who gives a shit? Look at what he did on the field. He's the hit king of baseball. Put him in the Hall of Fame. Nut itching shit. Barry Bonds was a top 5 player in the league before he started juicing. And that is, for people who remember, I mean, again, bro, my childhood, I said it last episode, was Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa fucking raking 75 home runs a year. And Barry Bonds going, well, if they're doing it, if they're doing it and I'm already this good, I might as well just get on the train too. And he gets lumped in with these guys, and I hate it.
And he was such a great contact hitter too. Like you just couldn't strike the guy out. First of all,
know who he was. You know who he was. He was David Ortiz. He was David Ortiz. When David Ortiz came up to the plate and you needed a home run, more times than not, you got it.
Yeah, but
whether it was a walk-off grand slam.
He might not have been as clutch as David Ortiz, but he was way better than David Ortiz.
Right, because he just always, dude. They used to the fucking kayaks in the river. There's 40 of them when Barry Bonds played.
There was a season, I got to look this up again, but he had like 130 intentional walks. Like it was like at least one. It was like it came out to like almost one a game or at least one a game. Might have been more than that, but there was situations in baseball, and it's the only time I'll probably ever see this. And Justin, it's the only time we're going to see it. We're never going to see it again, I don't think, where a team would be up either 1 or 2 runs and the bases would be loaded and Bonds would come up and they would walk them to send the tie.
Walk in a run.
Yep. Walk in a run up 2 to just get to the next guy, because they knew if they were a half inch or a quarter inch off of their spot, Bonds was parking it, and that was the game. I've never seen another guy get pitched to where people walked runs in, and we're never going to see it. We're never going to see it again.
No.
We're never going to see it again.
The closest we got to as Philadelphians was Ryan Howard when he hit 50 home runs that year.
Yeah,
he was great.
He wasn't a great contact hitter. He was just a great bomber for a year or two.
And if it weren't for fucking Jim Tomey, and see, I can't get through one day without saying fucking white people. It's always the white man's fault. We fuck everything up, Aaron. I don't know if you've accepted this yet. I've accepted it. We are responsible for all the worst things. Ryan Howard didn't come into the league until he was 27. I know, I'm with you. But Ryan Howard doesn't get into the league till he's 27, bro. Could you imagine Ryan Howard with 2 or 3 more major league seasons? That motherfucker would have been nuts.
But he also got progressively worse once people realized that he couldn't hit a curveball from a lefty. So he had a great first couple years, and then people started putting up lefties.
He still hit 35 to 40 home runs, though, bro, is all I'm saying.
He batted like 230 when he did that. So
I'm glad we got to talk a little baseball, buddy.
All right, so that's all we got for Big Facts. We'll have this episode up tonight, and it'll be available on all streaming platforms tomorrow morning. Follow Big Facts on all streaming platforms. Justin, any closing thoughts?
Good win by the Sixers. Let's sweep the Washington Wizards. I still don't know what Nick Sirianni's doing. I'm trying to learn. It seems stupid still. Devontae Smith looks great.
He does look great, doesn't he?
He does. Matisse Thybulle's an animal. A big block, a big steal against Bradley Beal. Again, as we talked about, Beal had a bad 33-point game.
How about the crowd, first of all?
Absolute difference maker. Absolute difference maker.
The crowd hyping up Thibault when he was one-on-one with Beal and trying to give him more energy because they all realize how great he is defensively.
No doubt.
I've very rarely seen
huge difference maker.
I've very rarely seen a roar on defense for a one-on-one matchup on the perimeter if the Sixers weren't on offense and they didn't want like Ben to shoot. It was that type of roar. It was good to see.
It was fantastic. But yeah, dude, there's more. Again, I keep saying it every week. Many exciting things to just get happy and hype about. I told my 10-year-old daughter today, bro, I said, Zoe, we're going to a fucking parade this year. We are going to a parade. I'm going to find a way to get us to one of those games at home. I'm sure I know somebody. We're going to go see a game. They're going to win while we're there. And we are going to the fucking parade. I can't wait. I'm excited, buddy. They're all my thoughts.
We'll see you guys next time. Big Facts. Thanks for joining us.
Peace, buddy.